Hello, and the warmest of welcomes indeed to this afternoon's iOB business webinar. It's a pleasure to have you on here. My name is Ben, and I'm the resident business coach here at iOB Business. Now, today's conversation, we're going to be talking about universal strategies for building a solid business. Okay, a really, really good webinar, especially if you're just starting out. Okay, now, throughout these webinars, we always have a wonderful, varied mix of entrepreneurs on here, some who have been doing it for a while, some who are just getting started. Okay, so we always aim for our webinars to cater for everyone of different experience levels. Okay, so whilst we're just waiting for everybody to get set up, a little bit about how these webinars run. Okay, so once again, my name is Ben. If you're just joining us now, welcome, welcome. Pleasure to have you all on here. So a little bit about how these sessions work. Okay, we're going to do a very brief introduction with myself as we are just now. We do this for a couple of minutes before we dive into the webinar, which is going to run for around about 15 to 20 minutes today. Now, if you do have any questions throughout today's webinar, we're going to stop in between each of the three topics, as we always do, to give you a chance to fire away with any of these questions. Of course, you're more than welcome to ask them at any time you would like. You can do so in the gray Q&A box at the bottom of the screen there. Now, one final thing, okay, the other reason that we take that pause in between each of the three main segments is so that you have time to jot down notes. So please don't worry about getting left behind. Please don't worry if there's anything that you wanted to catch up on, anything that you wanted to jot down. You should always have ample time to do this. Okay, so whilst we're just giving everybody a little minute to join, I'm going to go ahead and get us set up for today's presentation. So you should no longer be able to see me, but in just a moment, you should be able to see the presentation up on screen there. Okay, now right before we get kicked off for today's session, if you could please do me a big favor, just let me know if you can hear my voice okay, and if you can see the presentation up on screen okay, right before we get kicked off for today's session. Perfect. Thank you ever so much. So it looks like we are ready to rock then. Okay, so approaching 2 o'clock mark now. Welcome to everybody that's just joining us. Today's topic of conversation, universal strategies for building a solid business. Okay, a really, really cool webinar, one that I'm very much excited to present to you today. Now, my name is Ben. I'm a business coach, and I specialize in working with small businesses to help them achieve stability and growth. It's my passion, it's my love, it's what I get to do every day. I'm truly blessed and indeed excited to be on here giving this webinar to you today. So first of the three points of conversation we're going to be covering today. Number one, full understanding of what you offer. We're looking at universal strategies here. That means they're applicable across every service-based business I've ever helped be a part of. Okay, so number one, full understanding of what you offer. Number two, marketing the key points of your brand. And number three, a refined ability to sell. So each of these we're going to delve into a little bit and give you some good detailed information about how you can really, really exercise these key points to make them work for you. Okay, so without further ado, let's get kicked off with topic number one, full understanding of what you offer. Okay, so first things first, we're looking at, well, if we're looking at understanding what it is that you offer as a business, this is really what we're getting at. So when I say what you offer, what we're really talking about is, let's say you had a prospective or current client, what do you offer them? In quite a literal sense, what are you offering that person or that business? Okay, so we need clarity on who you're going to be offering your service to first and foremost. Okay, if you do not know specifically who your service would benefit the most, who your target market is, and who really this service offering is engineered to serve, you're going to find yourself with a little problem when it comes to marketing, because you might have the most incredible service offering developed in any given niche, SEO, website development, paid ads. But if you don't know who it's supposed to serve, then you're going to have a little bit of difficulty, not only in closing clients, but also in finding them in the first place. So the reason that we need clarity on who you're going to be offering your service to very, very heavily sits in this area of, well, okay, I've developed this amazing service. I need to know who it's most beneficial to. Is it other businesses that serve business to business, you know, sort of clients and prospective clients? Is it something else specific that you'd be looking to achieve? Okay, now, if we're looking for that achievement area of whatever target market it is that we're looking at, we've got to be absolutely conclusively certain that we want to serve that specific market or that specific person. Okay, so clarity on who you're going to be offering your service to is point number one. Okay. Now, number two, knowing exactly what you're seeking to achieve for your clients. Now, this is more of an overall understanding of any given goal that you would like to achieve. All right. So knowing exactly what you're seeking to achieve for your clients. Now, is that more clients? Is that more leads? Is that a broader understanding of what their business does for their prospective clients? Is that more leads? Is it more clicks? Is it a lower cost per click? You've got to get very, very specific about what it is that you would seek to achieve for your clients. Now, if you can acknowledge this fact and how important it is when you're offering your service to other people, it would also give you a greater understanding of the importance of their business and what it is that they're looking to achieve. Okay, so many businesses, many digital agencies in this category would look to other businesses and think, right, well, what is their goal? What is it that they want to achieve? Because you, as a service provider, will have an understanding of the goal that you would like to achieve on their behalf. But if you begin to understand their business on a personal, more exclusive level, you would also then be able to understand certain, potentially attainable goals that they have in mind. And therefore, when you're on a sales meeting or when you're having a sales discussion, you can get even more specific and tailored towards them and what it is that they would like to achieve. Now, from a sales standpoint, you're definitely going to increase your chances by understanding specifically what it is that they want. Okay, these little niche areas that don't necessarily apply to the broader market, but they would be very much pleased if you pointed that out when you were speaking with them. Okay, now the next thing we have to do is understand the value of our service. Okay, understand how much your service is worth. We don't want to devalue this. We don't want to overvalue this. We've got to make sure that we're landing it right in the sweet spot where necessary. Okay, so there's two parts to this analysis. The first part of the analysis is establishing market averages and things like that for how much our business service offering could be worth or should be worth. Now, with this theory in mind, we've got to think, okay, well, look, if we build websites, what's reasonable here? Is it 500? Is it 1,000? Is it 2,000? And this is, of course, going to depend on the complexity of your service. Now, there are a few different ways in calculating how much your service is worth. Some people do it by valuing their time per hour, and they calculate how many hours it takes them to complete the service. Others do it on how skilled and how niche it is. Others do it based on market averages. This is really down to you to determine how much your service is worth. Now, if I take you to the other side, okay, using that information, I take you to the other side of the coin here. You've got to look at the market that you're speaking to, okay? So let's say theoretically, I was building websites at £5,000 or even £10,000 a piece, okay? Extraordinarily complex, custom coded website. Now, if you're living in a small local town and you take this to the local carvery restaurant, you say, I could build you a website for £10,000. That's very likely to be outrageously out of their budget reach, okay? Now, it's not that your service or your website isn't worth that £10,000 because, I'm sure it is in any given context. You're coding it from scratch, you're building something extraordinarily unique and impressive, but it's just not going to be appreciated by a business that doesn't have that kind of reach or doesn't have that kind of budget wheelhouse, if you like, okay? Now, two things you can do here. You can either reduce that service, you can build a more basic website that would apply to this local carvery, or you can look at essentially finding a client category or client niche that would fit that £10,000 custom website build, okay? A big company, probably doing over $500,000 a year in turnover, okay? So you've got to understand how much your service is worth, both from your perspective as to market averages, skill level included, how many hours you're spending on it. You've also got to think about when it applies to your market, your target audience, what's affordable, what's reasonable, what makes sense. Is it an investment or just an expense for them? Okay. Now, when you've done all of the above, you can look at gluing together your value and your execution into an offer. Okay. Now, this is really when it becomes absolutely crucial that we understand the value of what it is that we offer so that we can combine it with our execution and put it together in a nice, neatly packaged service offering for a prospective client, okay? So when it comes to understanding what it is that we offer, we've got it in very simple format. Okay, so who am I going to be offering my service to? Okay, so I want to work with service-based, client-facing businesses in my local town, okay? Now, next thing I've got to look at is exactly what I'm seeking to achieve for my clients. So if I pick up a local hair salon, say, which fits into my previous suggestion, next thing I'm going to look at doing here is saying, right, okay, well, what do I want to achieve for that hair salon? I would like them not just to rely on foot traffic. I'd like them to have online targeted advertising where people are accepting 20% off vouchers to come in and see them in person, first time, new time customers. Okay. Now, understanding how much my service is worth here, well, okay, here's a cool way to look at it. If I can bring them 5 or 10 new customers a week, let's say, I don't know, an average haircut is between 30 and 50 pounds. So let's draw out an average of 40 pounds a haircut, 20% discount would then be 32. So let's say that on average, I'm bringing them 10 times 32 pounds a week extra. So that'd be 320 pounds a week, approximately 1,300 pounds extra a month. Okay. Now, would it then be reasonable for me to say, okay, well, I suggest that you spend 200 pounds on paid advertising and another 200 pounds on my service fee, which would approximately be 1/3 of how much additional income I think you could make, okay, minus their own expenses and things. Now, what's also important to remember is that all of these new customers, not every single one of them, but some of them will also become recurring customers. So we've got to look at that added value for that business as well, okay? So understanding then how much our service is worth, would it then be fair to glue all of this together and go to this local hair salon, because we know exactly who it is that we want to speak to, and say, look, I have this offer, put it on the table for you. I think you could earn an extra £1,280 a month. I'd like 400, 200 of which will be your ad spend. And I'm going to do this, this, and this. Okay. So when it comes to having a full understanding of what you offer, just answer these questions as we have together on this slide that we've been running through today. And you will then begin to develop an overall understanding of these universal strategies to building a business. Okay. So that brings us to the end of topic number 1 now. Please do go ahead and take a moment to jot down any notes, anything you would like to write down. And also always know that you're more than welcome to ask any questions. You can do so in the grey Q&A box at the bottom of the screen there. And I'll be right back with you in just a moment's time. Okay, wonderful. So moving on to topic number 2 now, marketing the key points of your brand. Okay, so the next segment, if you like, of these universal strategies of building a solid business is, of course, marketing. Okay, so here's a sort of tip that I picked up from experience over my years and many that I've coached. Avoiding filler marketing and focusing on what matters the most to your prospects. Okay, so filler marketing would essentially be irrelevant content that you're kind of pulling together to make yourself look busy, let's say on social media, or just to look like you've got tons and tons of content. Okay, tons and tons of content is a wonderful, valuable thing for your prospects. However, irrelevant content is something that we want to stay away from. We want to be careful that we don't sort of overstep that line. Okay, filler marketing is something that is going to end up potentially deterring even our audience, the prospects, the clients that we may one day have, because they're looking at our page thinking exactly the same thing as we just discussed. Are they just posting this on here for the sake of posting it? Okay, so you want to focus on what matters the most to your prospects. You want to put stuff in front of them that really matters. So if your target audience, if we're sticking on the same, sort of basis here, let's say that it's still hair salons, okay, and Carver is even a bit opposite, but still makes sense. Okay, service-based businesses. So the type of content that you could be posting is top 3 tips for service-based businesses to get more customers in 2023, 2024, 2025, whenever it is that you're in business. Okay, so you can post stuff like that. You can post targeted, detailed information. Now, if we verge onto a side point for just a moment, we could say, yeah, hypothetically, some people do have this, a little bit of a fear that, well, if I post my specific strategies, then aren't people just going to steal those and never work with me? Okay, now, personally, I do disagree with that point. I think the more detailed and the more expert like you come across as on social media, people are going to be more inclined to work with you because they can see the talent that you have and they know that you won't be giving away absolutely everything that you know. Additionally, people often just don't do it themselves, so they might hire you to do it for them. Okay, so avoiding filler marketing and focusing on what matters the most to your prospects is an absolute crucial part of marketing the key points of your brand. Okay, number 2, carefully selecting the most valuable components of your digital agency and highlighting these to your target audience. So have a think about the business that you have a think about the digital agency that you have. Now, I know some of you don't have a digital agency yet, some of you do. Got a wonderful varied mix of entrepreneurs on here, but this does apply to everyone. Okay, so selecting the most valuable components of your digital agency and highlighting these to your target audience. How do I do this, Ben? Okay, well, what you want to do is look inside, look at your own digital agency and think, what are we great at? What do we really, really excel on? Are we amazing at customer service? Do we love one-to-one meetings with prospects, clients? Do we really serve people? Do we educate people? Do we run the most amazing paid advertising campaigns? Do we give people hyper growth in certain areas? What is it that you do uniquely and amazingly as a digital agency? And how can you explain this in an easy to understand, easily digestible format for your audience on social media, on emails, on blog posts, on your website? Okay. So select the most valuable components of your digital agency. If that's SEO, paid ads, customer service, a specific talent that you have in a specific field, talk about it, highlight it, make sure that your audience know that it's there and that they can too benefit from and enjoy that service offering. Okay. And next up, we have making sure that you're giving your brand a personality, allowing you to connect directly with your prospects. Okay. So something that we really want to avoid is coming across as this kind of gray, plain, just basic digital agency that doesn't seem to have anything unique or special about it. Very, very industrial, very corporate, very, we are just sort of posting this because we're posting this. We want to avoid that. We want to give yourself a voice, give your business a voice, as if they were speaking to a human being. Okay. It's very, very important that you establish this personality, and you do that by adding in a little bit of your own flair, having the odd joke, having a bit of a lighter, personality, sense of humor, the way that you speak. Okay, try and remove some of the corporateness sometimes when you do a post and add in a little bit of your own flair, a little bit of your own personality, because this helps people read it in a more relatable manner. It helps people understand on a deeper level that, oh, in fact, there is somebody actually running this business, and I can sort of imagine what they might be like. I can imagine what their business must be like. And more importantly, I can imagine now what it might be like to work with them, in a client business working relationship. And that's very, very important because you're making yourself personable, relatable. And these people now that are viewing these posts, they're understanding that, oh, okay, well, it's not some big, scary corporate agency I'm looking at here. It's a fun, excitable agency that wants to get me to where I want to go. And that's very, very appealing. Okay. Finally, placing your adverts in the right place. Okay. So again, we'll go back through the same logic as the offer. You could have the most amazing offer, but if the right people don't see it, it's going to go almost nowhere. Same with the advert. You could develop the most amazing creative, the most amazing content, the most amazing copy. But if it's not put in the right place, the right people aren't going to see it. And therefore, the advert could end up going nowhere. You could design the best advert in the world and it could completely tank for no other reason than the fact that it just isn't being seen by the right people. Okay, so let's say, for example, if this is on social media, we've got to make sure that our targeting and our audience is correct and all of that kind of stuff. If we're looking at search engines, we've got to make sure that we're running the right type of advertising campaigns and our adverts are displaying in the right way. If your audience typically more reads your emails and opens up your emails, you want to be using email marketing, blog writing. You could have other types of adverts as well. You could put yourself in the local paper. You could do business cards. You could do flyer distribution. Think about where your adverts are. If you're looking to pick up local businesses, it would very much likely make the most sense to do a flyering campaign across your local towns. Okay, simple stuff like this. So make sure that you're placing your adverts in the right place to be seen by the right people. And this will be much, much easier when you begin to understand the type of target audience that you want and the people that you're speaking to. Okay, so that brings us to the end now of topic number 2. I'm going to give you another brief moment. Please do take this opportunity to jot down any notes. Thank you so much for the questions that I had through there. I will get to them at the end for you there, and I'll be right back with you. Do ask away with any more questions that you have, and I'll be back with you in just a moment's time for topic number 3. Okay, wonderful. So moving on to the third and final topic of today's session, a refined ability to sell. Okay, so sales is a really, really cool subject and something that we can spend a good bit of time on, because ultimately, there is a saying in the industry, if you like, in the business industry, If you can't sell, you don't have a business. Okay, so confidence in who you are as a business is a big, big step to being able to sell, because selling isn't only about, oh, what do I say and when do I say it and how do I make somebody buy from me. It goes on to a deeper level of thinking about the way that you convey yourself. And as complex or as intimidating as this may sound, it actually, well, certainly from my perspective, makes sales easier when we begin to understand, okay, well, can I just sort of begin to develop these natural feeling traits that will ultimately overall help me sell? So case in point, confidence in who you are as a business. To me, this is just an absolute fundamental. You've got to have confidence, A, in yourself and your ability to deliver the service that you offer, and B, in your business as a whole. You have to truly believe that there is value in what it is that you're selling, because if you don't, you will find there, potentially even inadvertently, that your ability to sell said service starts to depreciate, because you don't truly believe that what it is that you're selling is going to offer anybody any actual value. And if this is the case, you as a person to another person, you're not going to want to sell them that. Okay, so you've got to have this confidence in who you are as a business. Now, this can come from many, many different things, but the absolute biggest one I've seen, the biggest assistance here, is working hard to truly put together something that you believe can really change somebody's business, especially as a digital agency. Okay, you have this confidence in who you are as a business, and even if you're brand new, understand that you are fantastic at what you do, that you really can do an excellent job. You won't have that validation from clients and testimonials, etc., to begin with, if you are a brand new business, that you can rely on the skill set, the experience that you have from other areas to develop this confidence and bring it forward into your sales calls. Okay, so understanding the needs of your prospective client and therefore larger prospect base is another really, really big one when it comes to refining this ability to sell. Why? Because if you understand the pain points, the needs, the desires of your prospective client, and essentially overall, again, larger prospect base, you're thinking about, well, what hurts them? What hurts them business-wise on a regular basis? Do they struggle to get customers? Do they struggle with, people not turning up for their appointments? Do they struggle to get themselves seen? Do they struggle with brand awareness? Do they have a lot of operational difficulties typically? Are there things that you can solve? Okay. Now, when you begin to think about these common pain points within a certain niche of an industry, as somebody you're talking to on a regular basis, not the same person, but the same niche of business, you then begin to understand how to speak to these businesses. You begin to understand more so how you can essentially feel their pain on, from a pain point standpoint. When you're in a sales call, you can speak to them almost as if you're feeling that same pain yourself, because you've done it so many times and because you've spent so much time trying to understand what these pain points are. So you understand the needs of your prospective client, therefore feel like you can empathize with them, and they feel like this as well, which in turn is going to help you sell whatever service it is that you're offering, because they'll think, oh, well, this person understands me on a personal level. Therefore, they understand the problem on a personal level. And if this is the case, they're going to, well, statistically, you would imagine, have a much higher chance of closing than somebody who didn't understand their pain points or their problems. So carefully selecting the prospects to meet is another big one. Okay. Now, whilst we do want to have as many sales meetings, as many sales calls as possible, it's not always optimal from a business standpoint to just simply accept any call at any time for any meeting for any given reason. We've got to make sure that the prospects that we actually take the time to sit down with are well qualified, in the sense that they understand what we offer, they understand why we offer it, and they're willing to actually take this time seriously to discuss services that we have to offer. Now, the reason you want to do this is really so that you don't waste your own time, but also so that we can make sure the prospects that you do actually sit down with are statistically at a high chance of converting with you. Okay, now, even if in not a literal statistic form, mathematically, whatever way you want to put it, in your head, you know that there's a good chance that this person is going to decide to do business with you. And that comes from doing our research when it comes right at the beginning, when it comes from our marketing, our advertising, our advert placement, our audience selection. These prospects that come through, then, if they're coming through in this way, and we've got a very, very established advertising campaign, we know that, okay, there's a good chance that this person is going to be serious. You can also do that, with like pre-meeting questionnaires, and you can email back and forth a little bit to get to know them first. All these kinds of things that can help you sort of audit, vet and understand, is this the type of person that I want to have a meeting with? Okay. And finally, taking your cue to sell at the correct time. So refined ability to sell is very much about not diving onto the sales meeting and trying to sell immediately. That's something that you're going to find you will struggle with, because at this point, if you're trying to sell too early, people haven't had the chance yet to speak about themselves, speak about their business. They really then begin to feel more like, oh, well, this person's just trying to sell to me, instead of they've listened to me for 40 minutes, they've understood what my problem is. And then when the sale comes, it feels more like a natural response to their problem, as opposed to, I'm just trying to sell to you. So you've got to make sure that you're taking your cue to sell at the correct time. Now, often you'll find that this will either be organically when they've asked a question that can lead to your service offering being a solution to their problem, or it'll come when they've sort of finished doing what they're doing and they say to you, okay, so, is there a way that we can work together? This is a pretty common one as well. Okay. But more than anything, when you're on these sales calls, you want to have in your head that you're 100% focused on helping this prospect solve their problem. Okay. Because problem of any kind of, size or scale, whatever it might be, if they didn't have one, very likely they wouldn't be on the sales call with you, even if their problem is, I've just started and I want to grow. Not necessarily a problem, but something they'd like to change. Okay, so take your cue to sell at the correct time. Now, that brings us to the end of topic number 3. Very, very briefly, we're going to do a recap and then we'll dive onto the Q&A for today's session. So I'll give you just a moment. Once again, please do take an opportunity to jot down any notes you might have, and I'll be right back with you very shortly for the recap. Okay, wonderful. So to recap on today's session, number 1, understand your offer. What is it that you sell? Who is it that you sell it to? Number 2, avoid filler marketing, irrelevant content, something that's not going to benefit anybody. Okay, focus on your key points, on the things that you really, really do well, and stuff that can really, really help your prospective client base. And finally, take your cue, sell at the right time, not too early, not too late, and execute well. Okay. So as always, a massive thank you for attending, taking the time to join us today. If you'd like to talk to a member of our team, you can head over to iob-business.com/talk-to-us, and you can then go ahead and book a call at a time that suits you. You'll see a calendar just like this one, and you can select a time to have a good chat with us. Okay, so whilst I grab the questions from you lovely people today, I will leave that link up on screen for you just now. So first question I have from today: can you cover filler marketing again, please? I sure can. So this means really that you're focusing on content that has almost no relevance to the goal of your advert, okay? To fill the space, to fill, say you had a Facebook page, it's just really, really busy with like blogs and articles to random places that don't really apply to your business or give any genuine content and value to your audience. Instead, you want to be creating the content yourself, writing the blog yourself, tailored, specifically made content for your audience. Okay, awesome question. Thank you for asking. Next question: how do I know if the prospect is right for a sales meeting? Cool, another great question. So over and above your sort of vetting and your research, you are taking a little bit of a chance. That's business. Some will pay off, some won't. But 99% of the time, you want to make sure that you are having a little look at any kind of inquiry form or any kind of questionnaire that you sent out beforehand to think, well, is this person serious? Now, you can get caught off guard. You can have people not attend for various reasons, but most of the time, hopefully, if you're at least asking them to fill in an inquiry form before they speak with you, they should give some kind of viable reason as to why they want to meet with you, therefore giving you enough reason to take the time on the call. And also, of course, once you jump onto the call, within the first few minutes, you'll be able to tell if that person is serious or not. Another awesome question. Thanks ever so much for asking. I will just have a look and see if we have any more. No. Okay, well, it looks like that is us for today. So as always, a massive thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I can't wait to speak to you again on the next iOB Business webinar. Take care and bye for now.